we're on the hook for a lot more payments. That's 15 million total. Then we have operating costs on top of that and a lot of equipment repairs on top of that.
From the need to find new ground so that he can expand his ever-growing gold mining operations in the U.S., to the desire for the team to show the boss that they can meet their targets in his absence, despite any crippling challenges. Here's how Parker's crew achieved a record-breaking gold haul without Parker's help. The adventure never ends when it comes to the different gold mining crews on the Gold Rush TV show. Today, we join the team as they set off on different journeys in this search for gold as the price of gold surges to an all-time high. Seeing how profitable it may be to get their hands on this gold at this point in time, it must have been annoying for these different mining crews to have to deal with different types of problems before they could get all the gold that they desired. First, there was Tony Beets, who had the huge task of mobilizing this massive machine that he had just found. One may ask why he'd go through all that trouble, but considering how this machine is set to change the level of productivity of his team for the better, in the sense that it could double their gold haul.
Part of the whole idea of buying this place was we'd be able to recoup some of the purchase price by selling stuff, and we have yet to do that. That plant's actually worth like $1 million.
One can see how Tony and his team may sacrifice all they have to make sure this machine is fully functional on one of their most fertile claims. While Tony and his team deal with the machine, one would find that Fred Lewis is at a point in time where he would have to make the biggest decision of his mining career.
I actually built one of those to test the quartz because I was like, I'm not going to chase quartz if there's no gold in it. And there were some flakes. Gold seems to be better on that line. Off to the sides, it's kind of like 0.5, 0.4. The biggest we've had.
What do you mean 0.5 or
0.5 ounces per 100, half an ounce 100.
If this gamble doesn't go well, all the blame would be on him, so they have to make sure this works. As Fred battles with this conundrum that could change the shape of his mining career forever, Rick Ness has to deal with a shocking and unexpected accident that could change his own life forever. As all these crews are trying to deal with their own individual issues, but one finds that Parker and his team may be the ones who may be able to catch a proper break if they succeed at the tasks set before them. As the season comes to a close, Parker has realized that it may be time to find some new ground for him and his team to explore in the seasons to come. As Parker tries to find this potential new ground, he leaves his team behind to continue with the extraction of gold from the ground in the Alaskan claims. To their credit, Parker's team decided to use this as an opportunity to shine by helping their boss build a war chest with a record-breaking haul of gold. This all began when Parker decided that it was time to take advantage of a 21st century gold rush. This is because he has recognized the surge in the prices of gold, and as such, he believes that this is the perfect time for him to expand his operations. This means that they must find some new ground to explore. With this in mind, he decided to see what Fairbanks has to offer him and his team in the near future. Once he got to Fairbanks, he ran into John Reeves and his daughter Elora, one of the biggest private landowners.
This WAF plant, it's got a lot more sluice run width, and so that's what should increase our yardage and help us get through all of the pay here at Dominion and the money pit that we have to do. It's a bit of a gamble going with something that's untested late in the season, but we'll roll those dice.
Going straight to the point, Parker informs John that he's there for some exploration and that someone had pointed John out as the man to see while he was there. He'd hoped that John had large blocks of land for him and his team to explore, and to his delight, John seemed to have that in spades. In fact, he believed that he had about 3,000 acres of land that may be of particular interest to Parker and his team if they wanted to explore it for gold. Once Parker's eyes lit up, John informed him of Rich Creek, the 3,000-acre piece of land that was located on the north side of town. John believed that this piece of land would be perfect for Parker because he relied on drilling to look for gold, and that was the best way he could go about it on that particular piece of land. Well, at least that's what John thought. With this in mind, Parker seemed interested in the deal. All he wanted to do was cross his T's and dot his I's while making a deal with John that would secure his permission to explore his land. After some time, Parker is able to secure a deal with John where he could carry out some test runs on Cleary Creek.
Drilling didn't go great on the first property, but the second one it did. It's a place called Cleary Creek. It's going to take a few years to develop. A lot more exploration that needs to get done.
Once this was decided, Parker decided to ring in Liam Ferguson so that they could start work on the land. They had to make sure that there was indeed some gold on the property before they could commit to anything out there. That said, there may not have been anything to worry about. Apparently, the Fairbanks area is said to be rich in gold. In fact, some old-time miners made their fortune searching for gold just about 20 miles away from Fairbanks. As the story goes, these miners were able to extract about 10 ounces of gold for every 100 yards yards they explored in the area. This figure represents something around 7 times the amount of gold that Parker and his team have ever extracted from the claims in the Klondike. And as such, one can see how enticing this prospect in Fairbanks must seem to Parker and his crew. They have to see if they can find some gold out there. Eager to see what is down there, Parker and Lame Ferguson returned to Cleary Creek in Fairbanks with their sonic drill so that they could prospect the 300-acre claim down there.
First cleanups typically are not very good. It's ditch dirt, gravel and stuff, so not a lot of high hopes from either Parker, Mitch, or Tyson, but we'll get this thing broken down, get it cleaned up, down to the gold room, see what we have.
Hey, they got to spend some money to make some money if they were going to build on the gold rush that occurred here back in the early years of the 20th century. Since then, this area has produced about 8 million ounces of gold, thereby enriching those who extracted it from the earth with a combined total of about $15 billion in today's economy. Hoping to get some of that $15 billion in their pockets, Parker and Liam decided to explore the 3,000 claim for the best place to test out their sonic drill. That was the next step towards getting the gold that is supposed to be somewhere in the ground here. They seem to be a bit lucky in this situation because, according to reports, Cleary Creek was last dredged in the 1940s, and as such, strips of virgin ground is what is now left in the area. With some luck, Parker and his crew could get all the gold that they dreamed of if they are able to hit a mother lode in one of these strips of virgin land. Thankfully, they now have the sonic drill to help carry out this confirmation process.
I mean, it's a good thing that these guys know what they're doing, because like hitting that slide rock, a lot of people would be like, oh, we're on bedrock, but it looks like there's some gravel underneath it. There's more gravel than we previously thought, so that's good.
One would find that this operation would be his last move before he had to go and perform a checkup at his mining operations in the Yukon. Over at the Indian River claims more than 250 miles southeast, one would find that Parker's crew was hard at work making sure that their boss didn't have to worry about them. They could function very well without him, and they were going to prove it. At least that may be the sentiment of Mitch Blash, Parker's right-hand man. Parker had left Mitch to ensure that Slucifer and Big Red were fully operational and helping them extract as much gold as possible. This meant that they needed to sluice as much ground as they could and open as much ground as was possible. That was the only way Mitch felt that he could keep them on track, which in turn will please Parker when he returns from his exploration of the claims in Fairbanks. Well, they may be on track because so far this season, they have been able to extract an average of about 450 ounces of gold.
Being in this situation, but seems like I constantly find myself in this kind of situation.
In order to maintain this pace while Parker was away, Mitch realized that he'd have to oversee the team as they extracted about 1,800 ounces of gold during the weeks that Parker was away. Sure, it may be a lot, but Mitch knew that he and the rest of the team didn't want to let Parker down in his absence. They were going to have to find a way to meet such a target before the boss returns, even if it means that the sluicing machines were going to work 24 hours a day. Sure, they may have to sacrifice a lot during the summer, but it would be better for them to work as hard as possible so that they could return home with some money in their hands than for them to return home broke.
I'm really thankful that we didn't drag that virus into camp, because I had nightmares about that. And one of the nice things about having good seasons when the gold prices are good is it gives us options. There's a block of ground for sale in Alaska right now that I'm really interested in.
Even Mitch is making a bit of a sacrifice because his wedding anniversary is coming up, but this is just the price he was going to have to pay if he was going to achieve success. That said, they were going to have to make up for the fact that they were a bit short on manpower. At least that is what team members like Brennan Rouault thought when he was helping out with the digging operations on the Indian River claims. If they were going to have a fighting chance, they may need to get some more guys down there. Regardless, the team continues with the work, desperately pushing themselves to get to their target.
All right, so this is the bottom of the hole we drilled. There's no pay layer in that sample.
There's nothing in there. We're going broke.
Maybe that is why they made an error so massive it would bring their operations to a halt. Unfortunately for them, some of the pay dirt that was fed into one of the sluicers caused a clog so big it wrecked the machine's conveyor belt. What are they going to do now? One thing for sure though, they weren't going to extract a lot of gold that week. As you can imagine, this jeopardizes their 1,800 ounces of gold target. They're going to have to do something if they're going to overcome this challenge. Thankfully, the team had the expertise to tackle such a problem at that point in time. Before long, they were able to expose this damaged conveyor belt and some of the damaged roller frames that were underneath it. As they had no spare rollers with them, Mitch and the rest of the team decided that they were going to use the forklift to fix the problem. Luckily, this works, especially as failure would mean that they would never reach that 1,800 ounce of gold target. All that was left for them to get back to work was for them to fix the 500-pound conveyor belt back on. Fortunately, this process turned out just fine, and before long, it looked like they were back to business.
Using parts and pieces on different trucks, and hopefully we can find something here to get our conveyor back together.
Nothing was going to stop them from meeting that target. Heck, they may even be able to make up the time they lost before the night shift. Sure, they were a bit behind, but they'd be darned if they didn't get back on track before the boss returns. Now that morale was up, Mitch planned on talking to his wife and wishing her a happy anniversary before the day runs out. Although he'd have loved to be at home with his wife and his daughter, he's grateful that he's got some work at all, especially in this wretched economy. Such is the nature of love in the face of gold. Well, now that the anniversary is over, Mitch and his crew are set to do all they can to meet that 1,800 ounces of gold target before Parker, their boss, returns to the Indian River claims. This was their way to show that they were able to continue working at full capacity, as if he was still there with them. They knew that he'd be glad to return and see that they were able to meet their $3.4 million target. To their credit, they were making some noticeable progress with this work, and with any luck, they may be able to achieve this goal. The entire team was keen to play their part. Crewmates like Chris cleans the mats on the big red wash plant. He's excited because things look good.
The leaves will be falling next, and then we'll be getting snow. So we better hurry up and find some gold so he can come mining here next year.
Although there isn't a lot of gold individually, he feels comfortable that when all of it is collected, they may come up to a decent pile that the entire team would celebrate. That said, Mitch is still nervous about meeting their target. Sure, it may seem that they may be getting along fine, but Mitch can't fight the feeling that they are slipping behind every day. Maybe this was because he was about to make a call to Parker so that he'd let the boss know how things are going on. However, he may have nothing to really worry about. The two wash plants seem to be working overtime. They will be able to meet their targets with this, surely. Either way, the phone call with Parker seemed to go well. Mitch lets Parker know how well things are going. To his surprise, though, Mitch learns that Parker will be back within 24 hours. Uh-oh, how much gold would they be able to get from the ground before Parker returns now? Well, it looks like they're just going to have to make a game plan for when Parker returns. For now, however, it looks like tomorrow is D-Day. They're just going to have to wait for the boss to get back before they can know if he's happy with their work. How nerve-wracking.
We paid like 1,400 ounces in royalties last year, and this year, a 700-ounce difference. After royalties,
It's our most successful season.
yeah, it was a lot better of a season.
Well, D-Day arrives and Parker is honing in on his crew at the Indian River claim after making that 400-mile trip from Fairbanks. Now that his exploration of the 3,000-acre Cleary Creek is over, he is eager to reunite with his crew so that he can see if they are on course to meet their targets for the season. At the very least, it would finally help him confirm that the team will remain functional and at full capacity even in his absence. To him, if that is possible, then he would feel a lot more secure about setting up in new grounds, because this would mean that he won't have to worry about the guys at the Indian River claims. With any luck, Mitch and the guys will be able to put him at ease. Before long, Parker returned home to his team, and just in good time too, as the team was actually preparing for their 4-week gold way. Exciting times, huh? Parker was a bit exhausted about his exploration of the claims in Fairbanks, especially as some of the drill testing gave off mixed results.
It took
Like
a
it's
few holes.
pretty easy to just like hit bedrock and
Yeah, so we
be like, oh, bedrock, cool, move on.
At the very least, it was going to take a few years for the claims at Cleary Creek would be ready for him and his team. As such, he is ready to continue with the work on the current claim while Cleary Creek was being prepared for their arrival. Soon, the rest of the team was surprised to find that the boss was actually back. After some jest, the boss informed the team about their future prospect over at Cleary Creek. In Parker's opinion, the increasing price of gold meant that they had to get to work over there. With them extracting all that gold from any claim that is prepared for them over there, they would surely be in the money in the future. All they had to do was make sure that the claim was truly ready for them. To Parker, things looked good over there, but definitely not as good as they did over here in the Indian River claims. Once Parker appreciated the state of things, Mitch and the rest of the crew admitted that their duties on the claim had actually kept them occupied. At least Sluicifer and Big Red had been busy all the while the boss was gone, and hopefully their gold haul would show the boss how productive they had been while he was gone. on.
This did get underground mined pretty hard, so it's going to be a mess down at the bottom.
Do you think we'll find like some shafts and stuff like
And
that?
drifts and maybe even some rooms that are all roomed out, and they'll be all full of mud.
Eager to please the boss, Mitch and the rest of the crew excitedly showed Parker all the gold that Big Red had helped them sluice from the pay dirt in the last 4 weeks or so. Look at all that gold. At about 200 ounces of gold, this was a bit short of what the team needed to make their work out there matter. Mitch and the rest of the team wasn't worried because they had a lot more gold coming up. Much to Parker's delight, he watched as all the gold they extracted made the numbers on the scale keep rising higher and higher right before his eyes.
Are they like 200 apiece or 300 apiece? Or?
They're like 500 apiece.
What?
5.5.
That's a good month.
Surely Mitch was proving that he was an adequate second-in-command that was capable of leading the team in the absence of Parker. This, however, was going to be difficult to prove as the team was only able to reach half of their weekly target that week. Remember, this was in light of the fact that that boulder wrecked the conveyor belt in one of the sluicing machines. There were definitely some bumps in the road, but this team was one that didn't know how to quit. The fact that they were even able to extract so much gold from the ground showed how hard-working and determined they were. Understand? This low yield of the week was cause for concern for Parker.
Is there any way you can find us some of the old drill reports for this zone here?
Yep, not a problem. It'd be 1940.
Okay, sounds good.
But luckily, Mitch and the rest of the team had a trick up their sleeves. They still had all that gold that they had extracted during the 3 previous weeks before the bad one, and boy was it a lot of gold for anyone to behold. Even Parker couldn't believe how much it had come to. Apparently, in these other weeks, they were able to average more than 500 ounces of gold while they were working in the mines. That is way more than the 450 ounces per week.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some bumps in the road. Yeah, there's definitely some bumps in the road along the way. You know, some issues with Big Red, we worked through those.
That they had come to expect so far. As you can imagine, it was all cheers and laughter when Parker realized that Mitch was truly his man. Who could blame him, really? He soon came to realize that in his absence, his team was able to get to work. Heck, they were even able to extract 2,094 ounces of gold, a figure that represented nearly 300 ounces more than their initial target of 1,800 ounces of gold. This in turn was worth about $4.3 million.
You know, Parker, 35% of all the gold that came out of Fairbanks came out of that ground.
Right.
So it's not what they took, but it's what they left.
Right.
Now the team can get that plane they wanted. As high fives were being thrown everywhere, the team looked like they were in good spirits. Who'd have thought that they'd not only be able to achieve their goals, but also surpassed it, even in the face of all these challenges that almost hindered their progress while they were hard at work. In light of these problems, it is remarkable that the team was able to extract almost 5,000 ounces of gold so far that season. As you can imagine, there were smiles everywhere as the team took this in. Maybe Parker should take trips more often. The results seemed to be self-evident as the team celebrated the accumulation of enough gold to have made more than $8 million so far that season.
Well, you threw a 5,000 ounce goal at us. You nailed that. You threw a 7,000 ounce goal. Our season total is 7381.1 for the season.
If you ask Parker, though, it wasn't only about the money. To him, it was more about the fact that the team had one of the most productive months ever in his absence, and this gave him some sort of comfort. Now he knows that even in his absence, his team will still be hard at work trying to succeed in their mission with as much fervor as when he was there.
If gold prices stay high, there's a good chunk of mining there, I think. We just need a plane, and then any of us could go back and forth quite easy. It's like an hour and 20-minute flight.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
If anything, this showed how strong and hardworking the team was. With this in mind, they can now create more targets that could help them push themselves to success and glory. Let's see if this would help the team gather more gold during Gold Rush, from the need to find new ground so that he can expand his ever-growing gold mining operations in the U.S. to the desire to show the boss that they can meet their targets in his absence despite any crippling challenges. Here's how Parker's crew achieved a record-breaking gold haul without Parker's help.